The room fell silent the moment Jasmine's voice cracked through the air, sharp and shaking with rage, because no one expected what came next. What was supposed to be a calm family sit-down exploded into pure chaos when Rasheeda's mom leaned forward, eyes blazing, and dropped a bombshell that left everyone frozen. "I'm tired of being quiet," she snapped, pointing straight at Jasmine and then at her own daughter. "You're greedy, both of you, and I'm done pretending you're not." In that instant, emotions ran high, jaws dropped, and fans would later say this was the most shocking confrontation they'd ever seen. Jasmine shot up from her chair, disbelief written all over her face. "Greedy?" she fired back. "After everything I've done for this family? You don't get to rewrite history." Voices overlapped, accusations flew, and what started as simmering tension turned into a full-blown verbal war. Rasheeda, caught painfully in the middle, tried to calm things down, but her mother wasn't finished. She accused Jasmine of manipulation, of money-hungry motives, and of tearing the family apart behind closed doors. Jasmine, fighting back tears, claimed she was being scapegoated for years of resentment and secret grudges. Fans are shocked because this wasn't just petty bickering, this was years of unspoken resentment spilling out in one heated clash. Friends watching from the sidelines whispered that this argument had been building for a long time, fueled by business deals, family favors, and whispers of betrayal. Every word cut deeper than the last, and by the time the dust settled, the family was left divided, with no clear path to reconciliation. And that was only the beginning. Because what came next would expose secrets no one was prepared for, and change these relationships forever. The tension didn't fade after that first explosion, it thickened, hanging in the room like smoke that burned everyone's eyes. Jasmine stood there breathing hard, her hands trembling as she tried to steady herself, while Rasheeda looked back and forth between her mother and Jasmine, her face tight with panic and disbelief. "Mom, please," Rasheeda said softly, her voice cracking, "this isn't how we handle family business." But her mother wasn't listening anymore. She folded her arms, leaned back in her chair, and let out a bitter laugh that sent chills through everyone watching. "Family business?" she snapped. "That's funny, because all I see is people treating family like a paycheck." Jasmine shook her head, pacing the floor as if staying still would make her explode. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice rising. "You see numbers and assume the worst. You don't see the sacrifices." Rasheeda reached out, trying to grab Jasmine's arm, but Jasmine pulled away, her eyes glossy with frustration. Emotions ran high as old wounds began to reopen, and what shocked everyone most was how prepared Rasheeda's mom seemed, as if she had been holding on to these accusations for years just waiting for the perfect moment to unleash them. "Don't act innocent," her mother continued, her tone icy. "I watched how you moved, Jasmine. Every deal, every favor, every family decision, somehow worked out best for you." Jasmine stopped pacing and turned slowly, her jaw clenched. "Say it," she challenged. "Say what you really want to say." The room went silent again, and Rasheeda's mom didn't hesitate. "I think you and Rasheeda got greedy," she said. "I think money changed both of you." Those words hit Rasheeda harder than anyone expected. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "Mom, how can you say that about me?" But instead of softening, her mother doubled down. She accused Rasheeda of choosing comfort over loyalty, of forgetting who supported her when she had nothing. Rasheeda's hands covered her mouth as she tried to hold back sobs, and Jasmine's anger shifted into something darker, more protective. "Don't you dare put this all on her," Jasmine snapped. "If you're mad at me, be mad at me." Fans would later say this was the moment everything crossed a line. The argument stopped being about money and started becoming personal. Rasheeda's mom brought up old family moments, twisting them into evidence of betrayal. She mentioned holidays where she felt left out, business meetings she wasn't invited to, and whispers she heard from relatives who claimed Jasmine was running things behind the scenes. Jasmine laughed bitterly. "So now we're listening to rumors?" she shot back. "Because I've heard plenty about you too, but I kept my mouth shut out of respect." That comment sparked another wave of chaos. "What are you saying?" Rasheeda's mom demanded, leaning forward again. Jasmine hesitated, clearly debating whether to unleash something she'd been holding in. Rasheeda pleaded, "Jasmine, don't," her voice shaking. But Jasmine was past the point of stopping. "I'm saying I've covered for you more times than I can count," she said. "I've protected this family's image when you were the one causing problems." The room erupted. Rasheeda's mom stood up, knocking her chair back, her face flushed with rage. "How dare you," she yelled. "You come into this family and act like you're the hero?" Jasmine stood her ground, their faces only inches apart. "Someone had to be," she replied coldly. Emotions ran high, and even the people watching from the sidelines could feel that this argument had crossed into dangerous territory. Rasheeda finally broke down, stepping between them, tears streaming down her face. "Stop it, both of you," she cried. "This is my family. You're tearing it apart." Her words slowed things down, but they didn't heal anything. Rasheeda's mom turned to her, her voice dropping into something more wounded than angry. "I did everything for you," she said, "and now I feel like an outsider in my own bloodline." That confession shifted the mood, and for a brief moment, Jasmine looked conflicted. "That was never my intention," she said quietly. But Rasheeda's mom shook her head. "Intentions don't matter when the damage is done," she replied. Fans are shocked because the argument revealed how deep the resentment really ran, and it became clear this wasn't about one incident, but years of unspoken pain. As the conversation dragged on, accusations turned into confessions. Rasheeda admitted she felt torn between keeping the peace and standing up for herself. Jasmine admitted she often felt blamed for choices she didn't make alone. Rasheeda's mom admitted she feared being replaced, forgotten as success and money changed the family dynamic. But instead of bringing them closer, these truths only seemed to push them further apart. By the time voices lowered and everyone sank back into their seats, the room felt heavier than before. Nothing had been resolved, and if anything, the lines were drawn more clearly. Jasmine stared at the floor, Rasheeda wiped her tears, and her mother sat silently, her expression unreadable. The family was left divided, and as the silence stretched on, one thing became painfully clear to everyone watching. This confrontation was far from over, and the next words spoken would only dig the wounds deeper, setting the stage for an even more explosive fallout. The silence didn't last long, it never does in families where too much has been left unsaid. Rasheeda's mom was the first to move again, exhaling sharply as if she'd been holding her breath for years. She crossed her arms and looked away, her voice quieter now but far more cutting. "You all look at me like I'm the villain," she said. "But nobody ever asks how I ended up feeling this way." Jasmine lifted her head slowly, her eyes narrow, clearly torn between sympathy and disbelief. "Then tell us," she replied. "Because right now all we're hearing is blame." Rasheeda shifted uncomfortably, her shoulders slumped, exhaustion written all over her face. "Mom, we're listening," she said. "Just please don't turn this into another attack." But the damage had already been done. Rasheeda's mom shook her head and laughed bitterly. "Attack?" she scoffed. "I've been swallowing my feelings for years. Tonight is the first time I've told the truth." Emotions ran high again as she began listing moments that haunted her, moments she claimed proved she'd been pushed aside as the family grew closer to fame and money. She talked about the first big check Rasheeda ever brought home, how everyone celebrated but nobody noticed her standing in the corner, feeling invisible. She talked about meetings she wasn't invited to, decisions made without her input, and phone calls that stopped coming as often. "I raised you," she said to Rasheeda, her voice trembling. "And now I have to ask permission just to understand what's going on in your life." Rasheeda broke down again, shaking her head. "That's not true," she cried. "I never meant to shut you out. I was trying to survive." Jasmine couldn't stay quiet anymore. "You're rewriting the story," she said firmly. "Rasheeda didn't push you out. Responsibilities changed. Pressure changed." Rasheeda's mom spun toward her instantly. "And there it is," she snapped. "You always jump in like you're her shield." Jasmine didn't deny it. "Because every time things get hard, you turn on her," she replied. "You call it honesty, but it feels like punishment." Fans are shocked because the argument kept escalating in unexpected ways, peeling back layers no one knew existed. Rasheeda's mom accused Jasmine of controlling narratives, of positioning herself as the savior while quietly benefiting the most. "You're smart," she said coldly. "You know how to play the game." Jasmine clenched her fists. "If protecting this family makes me a villain, then fine," she shot back. "But don't confuse strategy with greed." Rasheeda stood between them again, her voice hoarse from crying. "Please," she begged. "This is killing me." But her plea only seemed to highlight how fractured everything had become. Rasheeda's mom softened for a split second, reaching out as if to touch her daughter's hand, then pulling back. "I just want to know I still matter," she whispered. The room went quiet, and even Jasmine looked taken aback by the vulnerability. But peace was short-lived. A relative sitting off to the side muttered something under their breath, and suddenly Rasheeda's mom snapped again. "See," she said loudly. "They all know it. They all see how this family has changed." Jasmine turned toward the others, her frustration boiling over. "If anyone here has something to say it to my face," she challenged. Nobody spoke, but the tension grew heavier, thick with judgment and unspoken opinions. Rasheeda's mom took that silence as confirmation. "Exactly," she said. "No one wants to say it, but everyone's thinking it. Money came in, and loyalty went out." Rasheeda shook her head desperately. "That's not fair," she said. You think I don't feel guilty every day? You think success feels good when my own mother looks at me like this? Her voice cracked completely, and she collapsed into a chair, covering her face. Jasmine's anger softened again, replaced by concern. She knelt beside Rasheeda, placing a hand on her back. "This isn't all on you," she said quietly. But Rasheeda's mom watched the moment with narrowed eyes, misinterpreting the gesture entirely. "See?" she snapped. "Always you. Always stepping in." Jasmine stood back up slowly, her patience clearly wearing thin. "If you want me gone, just say that," she said. "Don't hide it behind accusations." Those words landed hard. Rasheeda's mom hesitated, her expression flickering with something close to guilt, then pride took over. "Maybe I do want space," she admitted. "Maybe I need distance from whatever this family has become." Gasps filled the room. Rasheeda looked up, stunned. "You don't mean that," she whispered. But her mother didn't answer, and that silence spoke louder than any insult. Fans would later say this was the moment the family truly fractured. The idea of separation, of walking away, suddenly felt real. Jasmine stepped back, shaking her head slowly. "Distance won't fix what you're feeling," she said. "It'll just prove how broken this already is." Rasheeda's mom shrugged. "Or maybe it'll protect me," she replied. Emotions ran high as everyone realized this confrontation was no longer just a fight, it was a crossroads. As the night dragged on, the energy shifted from explosive to heavy and hopeless. Nobody knew what to say next, and every glance felt loaded with judgment. Rasheeda sat quietly, staring into nothing, while Jasmine stood off to the side, feeling both blamed and helpless. Rasheeda's mom looked older somehow, worn down by her own words. The family was left divided, suspended in a painful pause, and it was clear that whatever came next would force choices no one was ready to make, pushing this drama into an even deeper and more personal chapter. No one moved for a long moment, the kind of pause that feels louder than screaming. Then Rasheeda slowly stood up, wiping her face, her voice steadier but colder than before. "If you need space," she said, looking directly at her mother, "then say it clearly. Don't punish us with silence." Rasheeda's mom finally looked at her, eyes glossy but guarded. "I already said enough tonight," she replied. "Everything else will just make it worse." Jasmine exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "It's already worse," she said. "Pretending otherwise won't save anyone." That's when another twist hit. Rasheeda's mom reached into her bag and pulled out a folded envelope, worn at the edges, like it had been carried around for a long time. Fans are shocked because nobody expected paperwork to enter the argument. "I didn't want to bring this up," she said slowly, "but since we're being honest." Rasheeda frowned. "What is that?" she asked. Her mother placed the envelope on the table between them. "Proof," she replied. "Proof that I wasn't imagining things." Jasmine stiffened. "Proof of what?" she asked. Rasheeda's mom slid the papers forward. They were old financial statements, emails, and handwritten notes. "These decisions," she said, tapping the page, "were made without me. And don't tell me I wouldn't understand, because I understand numbers just fine." Rasheeda's eyes scanned the papers, her hands shaking. "This was years ago," she whispered. "Why are you bringing this up now?" Her mother's voice cracked. "Because I kept hoping it would stop," she said. "But it didn't." Jasmine leaned in, reading quickly, then scoffed. "This doesn't say what you think it says," she argued. "These were emergency calls. Last-minute moves." Rasheeda's mom laughed bitterly. "There's always an excuse," she said. "Always a reason why I'm the last to know." Emotions ran high again as Jasmine accused her of digging through private records, while Rasheeda's mom fired back that nothing should be private when family is involved. Rasheeda dropped the papers onto the table, overwhelmed. "I can't do this," she said. "I can't keep reliving the past like it's happening today." She looked at her mother, tears spilling again. "Why didn't you come to me then?" Her mother hesitated, then answered quietly, "Because every time I tried, you were busy becoming someone else." That sentence cut deeper than any insult, and the room felt like it tilted. Jasmine reacted instantly. "That's unfair," she said. "Growth doesn't mean abandonment." Rasheeda's mom turned to her sharply. "Easy for you to say," she replied. "You gained something from that growth." Jasmine went silent, and that silence spoke volumes. Fans are shocked because for the first time, Jasmine didn't have a comeback ready. Rasheeda stepped back, putting physical distance between them all. "Maybe we all messed up," she said quietly. "Maybe nobody here handled things the right way." But her mother shook her head. "Accountability matters," she said. "And I'm tired of being the only one expected to swallow pain." Jasmine finally spoke again, her voice lower, almost tired. "Then what do you want?" she asked. "An apology? A confession? Or someone to blame?" Rasheeda's mom looked at her for a long moment. "I want acknowledgement," she said. "I want to hear that I wasn't crazy. That I wasn't imagining being pushed aside." Rasheeda nodded slowly. You weren't crazy, she said. And I'm sorry you felt that way. It was the closest thing to peace all night, but it didn't last. Jasmine shifted uncomfortably. Feeling pushed aside doesn't mean we were greedy, she said. That label sticks. Rasheeda's mom's face hardened again. Then maybe don't act like people who forget where they came from, she replied. Jasmine snapped back, and maybe don't weaponize motherhood to control grown decisions. Gasps echoed. Rasheeda's eyes widened. Jasmine, she warned. But the line had already been crossed. Rasheeda's mom stood abruptly. That's it, she said. I'm done for tonight. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door. Rasheeda followed her, panic setting in. Don't leave like this, she begged. But her mother paused only briefly. Some wounds need distance to stop bleeding, she said, then walked out. The door closed softly, but the impact felt violent. The family was left divided in the quiet aftermath. Rasheeda collapsed onto the couch, sobbing openly now. Jasmine stood frozen, staring at the door. This went too far, Rasheeda whispered. Jasmine swallowed hard. It was already too far, she replied. Outside, unseen, Rasheeda's mom sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel, tears streaming down her face, questioning whether she'd finally spoken her truth or destroyed her family for good. And inside that house, the consequences of that night were only beginning to surface, setting the stage for an even more painful reckoning that no one could walk away from. Inside the house, time felt frozen, but outside the consequences were already moving fast. Rasheeda sat hunched over, her shoulders shaking as years of pressure finally broke loose. Jasmine hovered nearby, unsure whether to comfort her or give her space, guilt and frustration battling on her face. I never wanted it to end like this, Jasmine said quietly. Rasheeda looked up, eyes red and swollen. But it did, she replied. And now I don't know how to fix it. Minutes passed before Rasheeda finally stood up, wiping her face with shaky hands. I need air, she said. Jasmine nodded and followed her outside, where the night felt colder than before. They stood in silence for a moment, both replaying every word that had been said. Do you think she meant it? Rasheeda asked softly. Jasmine knew exactly what she meant. About wanting distance? She answered. Rasheeda nodded. Jasmine hesitated. I think she's hurt, she said carefully. Hurt people say things they don't always mean. Rasheeda let out a bitter laugh. Or things they've been meaning to say for a long time. Across town, Rasheeda's mom sat alone, replaying the argument in her head like a broken record. Every accusation, every raised voice, every look of disbelief haunted her. Part of her felt relieved, like a weight had finally been lifted. Another part felt sick with regret. Maybe I went too far, she whispered to herself, gripping the steering wheel tighter. But then the images returned, the meetings she wasn't invited to, the decisions made without her, and her jaw tightened again. Or maybe I waited too long. Back at the house, the ripple effects continued. Phones started buzzing as word of the argument spread. Relatives texted, friends called, and fans are shocked as snippets of the confrontation leaked through whispers and screenshots. Is it true? One message read. Did she really call you greedy? Rasheeda stared at her phone, overwhelmed. Jasmine glanced over. You don't owe anyone an explanation tonight, she said. Especially not strangers. Rasheeda nodded, but the weight of public opinion already felt crushing. The next morning didn't bring clarity, only more tension. Rasheeda woke up to missed calls from her mother and unanswered texts she didn't know how to respond to. Jasmine watched her pace the kitchen, coffee growing cold on the counter. Are you going to call her back? Jasmine asked gently. Rasheeda shook her head. Not yet, she said. I need to understand how I feel before I hear how she feels. Jasmine respected that, but unease lingered between them. Hours later, Rasheeda's mom finally broke the silence with a message that was short but heavy. I meant what I said. I need time. Rasheeda read it over and over, her chest tightening. She really wants space, she whispered. Jasmine sat beside her. Space doesn't mean forever, she said. But even as she spoke, she wasn't sure if she believed it. Days passed, and the family felt the absence deeply. Gatherings felt awkward, conversations felt forced, and the empty chair where Rasheeda's mom usually sat became a constant reminder of the fracture. Fans are shocked by how quickly things shifted from private tension to public concern. Rumors spread that the family was falling apart over money, that Jasmine had taken control, that Rasheeda had chosen sides. None of it told the full story, but all of it hurt. Rasheeda finally decided she couldn't stay silent any longer. She drove to her mother's house, heart pounding as she stood at the door. When it opened, Rasheeda's mom looked surprised, then guarded. I'm not here to fight, Rasheeda said quickly. I just need to talk. Her mother hesitated, then stepped aside. The air inside felt heavy, familiar yet distant. They sat across from each other, the same table where so many meals had once been shared. "I never wanted you to feel replaced," Rasheeda said softly. "I was trying to build something, not leave you behind." Her mother listened quietly, arms crossed. "Intentions don't erase impact," she replied. "I felt invisible." Rasheeda nodded. "And that's on me," she admitted. "But calling us greedy hurt more than you know." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "I was angry," she said. "Angry and scared." Rasheeda leaned forward. "I'm scared too," she confessed. "Scared of losing you." For a moment, the wall between them cracked, but it didn't fully fall. "I need time," her mother said again. "To trust what I'm feeling." Rasheeda swallowed hard but nodded. "Then take it," she said. "Just don't disappear." When Rasheeda returned home, Jasmine could tell from her face that nothing had been fully resolved. "She needs space," Rasheeda said quietly. Jasmine nodded, wrapping her in a hug. "Then we give her space," she replied. "But we don't give up." Emotions ran high even in that quiet moment, because both women knew this wasn't a clean ending, just a pause. As weeks went by, the family tried to adjust to the new normal. Some days felt hopeful, others felt heavy with uncertainty. Fans are shocked by how raw and unresolved everything remained. No apologies had been fully accepted, no accusations fully erased. The family was left divided, standing on opposite sides of hurt and pride, with love stretched thin between them. And as Jasmine lay awake one night, staring at the ceiling, one thought kept repeating in her mind. This wasn't the end of the story. It was only the calm before the next storm, and when it hit, it would force everyone to finally choose between holding on to resentment or fighting for the family they were all afraid of losing. The next storm didn't come loudly at first, it crept in through whispers, side conversations, and looks that lingered a little too long. Weeks after that night, the family tried to function as if nothing had shattered, but everything felt fragile. Rasheeda noticed it at dinners when laughter sounded forced, when phones stayed face down on the table, when certain names weren't mentioned at all. Jasmine noticed it too, in the way people watched her more closely now, measuring her words, questioning her intentions without saying a thing. Fans are shocked by how quickly the narrative outside the family began to harden, turning private pain into public judgment. One afternoon, Rasheeda received a call that changed the tone completely. It wasn't from her mother, it was from a close family friend who had always been neutral. "I didn't want to get involved," the voice said carefully, "but you need to know what's being said." Rasheeda's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" she asked. There was a pause, then the words came out slow and heavy. "Your mom's been telling people she feels pushed out financially. That she thinks Jasmine controls everything." Rasheeda felt her chest tighten. "That's not true," she said instantly, even as doubt crept in behind the words. When she hung up, she sat there staring at nothing, realizing the distance her mother asked for wasn't quiet at all. It was loud in a different way. Jasmine found her moments later, face pale. "What happened?" she asked. Rasheeda told her everything, every word, every implication. Jasmine's jaw tightened. "So now I'm the villain publicly too," she said bitterly. Emotions ran high again, but this time there was no shouting, just exhaustion. "Maybe she's hurting," Rasheeda said weakly. Jasmine shook her head. "Hurting doesn't give someone the right to rewrite reality," she replied. The tension between them thickened, not directed at each other, but pressing in from all sides. That night, Jasmine lay awake scrolling through comments and messages she pretended she didn't care about. Greedy, manipulative, controlling, words she never thought would be attached to her name. Days later, Rasheeda's mom made her move. She invited several relatives to her house, framing it as a casual gathering, but everyone knew it was something more. Stories were shared, tears were shed, and her version of events took center stage. She spoke about feeling sidelined, about sacrifices unrecognized, about watching others benefit while she felt forgotten. Fans are shocked as snippets of this gathering made their way online through vague posts and cryptic captions. The family was left divided even further, choosing sides without ever hearing the full truth. When Jasmine found out, she was furious. "She's building a case," she said to Rasheeda. "Not for healing, but for validation." Rasheeda felt torn in half. "She's my mother," she whispered. "And she's hurting." Jasmine softened for a moment. "And so are you," she said. "But somehow that keeps getting overlooked." Rasheeda didn't answer, because deep down she knew it was true. The pressure finally exploded during a family meeting meant to clear the air. Everyone gathered, smiles tight, voices polite, until Rasheeda's mom spoke up. "I just want transparency," she said calmly. "No more secrets." Jasmine almost laughed. "Transparency goes both ways," she replied. "Including what's being said behind closed doors." The room froze. Rasheeda's mom met her gaze. "Are you accusing me?" she asked. Jasmine didn't hesitate. I'm stating a fact. What followed was quieter than their first fight, but more dangerous. Accusations wrapped in calm voices, disappointment disguised as concern. Rasheeda's mom claimed she never meant to hurt anyone, only to express her truth. Jasmine countered that truth without accountability becomes manipulation. Rasheeda sat between them, hands clenched, realizing she was once again the battleground. "Stop," she finally said, louder than intended. "Both of you are hurting me." That sentence shifted something. Rasheeda's mom looked stunned. Jasmine looked ashamed. For a brief moment, the fight paused. "I didn't know it felt like this for you," her mother said quietly. Rasheeda's voice trembled. "Because nobody asked," she replied. "Everyone's so busy proving they're right." Emotions ran high, but this time they cut inward instead of outward. After the meeting ended without resolution, Jasmine made a decision that surprised everyone. She stepped back publicly, refusing interviews, declining appearances, letting rumors swirl without response. "I won't fight a war built on half-truths," she said. Rasheeda worried the silence would make things worse. Jasmine shook her head. Sometimes silence exposes more than noise. Rasheeda's mom interpreted the silence differently. To her, it felt like confirmation. She grew more distant, more guarded, convinced she had been right all along. But late at night, alone, doubt crept in. She replayed Rasheeda's words, remembered the tears, the plea to stop. Guilt settled heavy on her chest, but pride kept her from reaching out. The breaking point came unexpectedly. Rasheeda fell ill from stress, ending up in the hospital for exhaustion. When the calls went out, everything stopped. Jasmine was there immediately, and so was Rasheeda's mom, arriving separately, unsure, afraid. They stood on opposite sides of the hallway, not looking at each other, united only by fear. Fans are shocked when news of Rasheeda's condition spread, shifting the focus from drama to concern. When they finally entered the room together, Rasheeda looked small, fragile, nothing like the strong figure everyone argued over. "This is what all of this has done," she whispered weakly. The words shattered something inside her mother. Tears streamed down her face. "I never wanted this," she cried. Jasmine's anger melted into something else entirely. "Neither did I," she said softly. In that hospital room, defenses dropped. Rasheeda's mom admitted she felt replaced, not by Jasmine alone, but by change itself. Jasmine admitted she took control out of fear of chaos, not greed. Rasheeda admitted she carried guilt she never voiced. It wasn't a full reconciliation, but it was real. The family was left divided still, but the lines blurred. As Rasheeda recovered, the family faced a choice. Continue the cycle, or finally listen. Nothing was magically fixed. Trust takes longer than apologies. But something shifted that day. Resentment loosened its grip, just enough to let hope breathe. And yet, even as things calmed, one question lingered in everyone's mind. Was this healing permanent, or just another pause before the next eruption? Because in a family built on love, pride, and unspoken wounds, peace is never guaranteed. It has to be chosen every day. And whether they were ready to keep choosing it remained the biggest unanswered question of all. Even after the hospital scare, peace didn't settle the way everyone hoped it would. It hovered, fragile and temporary, like glass that could shatter with one wrong word. Rasheeda returned home weaker physically but more aware emotionally, and that awareness hurt in new ways. She noticed how carefully Jasmine spoke now, measuring every sentence, afraid of being misunderstood again. She noticed how her mother stayed distant, present but guarded, like someone waiting for the next disappointment. Fans are shocked because what looked like reconciliation on the surface was really a quiet standoff underneath. Rasheeda tried to be the bridge. She called her mother more often, checked in, asked questions she'd avoided before. Sometimes the conversations felt warm, almost normal. Other times they were stiff, polite, full of pauses. Jasmine watched from the sidelines, unsure where she fit anymore. "I feel like a guest in my own life," she admitted one night, staring at the ceiling. Rasheeda turned toward her. "I never wanted you to feel that way," she said. Jasmine sighed. "Intentions don't always matter," she replied, echoing words that once cut Rasheeda herself. The outside noise never stopped. Blogs speculated. Fans picked sides. Some praised Rasheeda's mom for speaking her truth. Others accused her of guilt-tripping and manipulation. Jasmine became the most polarizing figure of all. Greedy, misunderstood, controlling, strategic, depending on who was talking. Emotions ran high online, and every post felt like gasoline on a fire that never fully went out. Then came another unexpected twist. A distant relative publicly hinted that there were financial disagreements even before Jasmine entered the picture. The comment was vague but explosive. Rasheeda saw it late one night and froze. "This goes deeper than us," she whispered. Jasmine read it over her shoulder, her expression unreadable. That changes everything, she said quietly. Because if the resentment existed before her, then she wasn't the root, just the target. Rasheeda confronted her mother gently the next day. Is that true? She asked. Were you already feeling this way back then? Her mother hesitated too long. Rasheeda's heart sank. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. Her mother looked down. Because I didn't want to burden you, she said. Rasheeda's voice shook. But you burdened me anyway, she replied. Just later, and heavier. That conversation reopened wounds instead of closing them. Rasheeda's mom admitted she had always feared losing relevance, long before money entered the picture. Success only magnified it. Jasmine listened later, torn between empathy and frustration. So I became the symbol of everything you were afraid of, she said quietly. Rasheeda's mom didn't deny it. The silence confirmed it. Weeks later, another family gathering took place, smaller, quieter, but no less tense. Old jokes fell flat. Smiles didn't reach eyes. Then, without warning, Rasheeda's mom spoke again. I regret how I said things, she admitted. Everyone froze. But I don't regret how I felt. Jasmine met her gaze. Feelings aren't facts, she replied calmly. Rasheeda held her breath, afraid of another explosion. Instead, something different happened. Rasheeda's mom nodded slowly. You're right, she said. But feelings still shape reality. That acknowledgement didn't fix everything, but it shifted the tone. For the first time, they weren't arguing over who was right, but over how they all got here. Fans are shocked because the drama turned inward, less loud but more raw. Still, not everyone was ready to move forward. Some relatives remained distant, choosing loyalty over truth. Whispers continued. Jasmine felt the isolation deeply. No matter what I do, I'll always be the outsider, she confessed to Rasheeda. Rasheeda took her hand. Not to me, she said firmly. Never to me. But even that reassurance felt fragile under the weight of everything else. The final fracture came quietly. Rasheeda's mom declined a major family event, citing stress. The excuse was polite, but the message was clear. Distance remained her shield. Rasheeda accepted it with a heavy heart. I can't force healing, she said. Jasmine nodded. But you can stop blaming yourself, she replied. That was harder than it sounded. Months later, the drama faded from headlines but not from memory. Relationships settled into new shapes, some closer, some permanently altered. The family was left divided, not by shouting anymore, but by choices. Jasmine and Rasheeda stood together, stronger but changed. Rasheeda's mom stood apart, still loved, still missed, still unresolved. And in the quiet moments, when the noise finally died down, one truth remained. Greed was never the real issue. Fear was. Fear of being replaced. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of losing control. Until that fear was fully faced, the wounds would never completely heal. And whether this family would ever truly come back together remained uncertain, hanging in the air like a question no one was brave enough to answer out loud. Time didn't heal the wounds the way everyone expected. Instead, it reshaped them. Months passed, and the family learned how to function around the cracks, stepping carefully, avoiding certain topics, certain memories, certain names. Rasheeda grew stronger physically, but emotionally she carried a quiet heaviness that never fully lifted. She smiled more in public, reassured fans that everything was fine, but behind closed doors the weight of being the emotional glue never stopped pressing down on her. Jasmine tried to rebuild her sense of self outside the drama. She focused on work, on routines, on anything that gave her a sense of control that wasn't questioned. But even then, the whispers followed. Friends asked careful questions. Associates watched her reactions a little too closely. Sometimes she caught herself rehearsing explanations in her head for accusations no one had even voiced yet. Emotions ran high internally, even when the outside looked calm. Rasheeda's mom stayed distant but not gone. She checked in through short calls, brief messages, holiday greetings that felt formal instead of warm. She told herself the distance was healthy, that she needed it to protect her peace. But late at night, she scrolled through old photos, remembering when everything felt simpler, when love wasn't tangled up with power and fear. She wondered if calling them greedy had been her truth or her weapon. The real shift came when Rasheeda stopped trying to manage everyone else's emotions. It happened quietly, without announcement. She stopped explaining, stopped apologizing for things she didn't fully own. When relatives hinted at tension, she changed the subject. When fans speculated, she stayed silent. That silence wasn't weakness anymore, it was boundaries. Jasmine noticed the change first. You're different, she said one evening. Rasheeda nodded. I'm tired of bleeding to keep everyone else comfortable. That change unsettled the family more than any argument ever had. Rasheeda's mom felt it immediately. The dynamic had shifted. Her daughter wasn't chasing reassurance anymore. She wasn't begging for closeness. And that scared her more than confrontation ever did. She's pulling away, she told a friend. But deep down, she knew the truth. Rasheeda wasn't pulling away. She was standing still. One night, Rasheeda's mom finally called Jasmine directly. It was the first time since the hospital. The silence on the line felt heavy. "I don't know how to talk to her anymore," she admitted. Jasmine closed her eyes, surprised by the honesty. "Maybe stop trying to talk," she said gently. "And start trying to listen." There was a long pause. "Do you think she hates me?" her mother asked. Jasmine answered without hesitation. "No," she said, "but she's tired of being hurt." That conversation stayed with Rasheeda's mom for days. She replayed it, questioned herself, wrestled with pride and fear. Finally, she did something she hadn't done in a long time. She showed up without an agenda. No accusations, no explanations, just presence. She knocked on Rasheeda's door unexpectedly one afternoon. When Rasheeda opened it, surprise flashed across her face. "I didn't know you were coming," she said. Her mother nodded. "Neither did I." They sat together in the living room, the air thick with unspoken history. Jasmine stayed back, giving them space. Rasheeda's mom looked around, noticing small details she'd missed before. Signs of stress, signs of strength. "You've been carrying a lot," she said quietly. Rasheeda didn't deny it. "For a long time," she replied. Her mother swallowed hard. "I didn't know how to matter anymore," she admitted. "And I let that turn into anger." Rasheeda looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time didn't rush to comfort. "I needed you to walk beside me," she said, "not pull me back." Tears filled her mother's eyes. "I thought I was losing you," she whispered. Rasheeda's voice softened. "You almost did," she said honestly. That truth hurt, but it didn't explode. It settled. Jasmine listened from the other room, heart pounding, unsure whether to step in or stay away. When Rasheeda finally called her name, her voice sounded different. Steadier. "Come here," she said. Jasmine joined them, cautious. Rasheeda's mom looked up at her. "I was wrong about some things," she said. "Not everything. Not fully. But enough." Jasmine nodded. "And I was wrong about how much control I thought I needed," she replied. Fans are shocked when rumors of this quiet reconciliation begin to surface. No dramatic statements. No emotional posts. Just subtle changes. Shared appearances. Less tension. More balance. The family was left divided still in some ways, but the war had ended. What remained were scars, reminders of what happens when fear speaks louder than love. Not everyone forgave. Not everything was fixed. But something important changed. Greed was no longer the word hanging over them. Understanding was. Imperfect. Fragile. Ongoing. And for the first time since that explosive night, the future didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a choice. And whether they would protect that choice or repeat old patterns remained unknown. But one thing was clear. The story everyone thought was about money was really about belonging. And once that truth surfaced, nothing could ever be the same again. Now that you've heard every shocking twist, every emotional breakdown, and every uncomfortable truth that came to light, the biggest question still remains unanswered. Can this family truly move forward, or are the scars from this clash too deep to ever fully heal? Fans are shocked by how quickly love turned into accusation, how fear disguised itself as anger, and how one word, greedy, nearly shattered everything they built together. Emotions ran high, lines were crossed, and even though some peace was found, the family was left divided in ways that may never completely disappear. This story proves that sometimes the loudest fights come from the deepest wounds, and not every apology fixes what was broken. Was Rasheeda's mom justified in speaking her truth, or did she let her fear destroy the very bond she was trying to protect? Was Jasmine unfairly blamed, or did power and control blur her intentions? And most importantly, did Rasheeda sacrifice too much of herself trying to hold everyone together? Now it's your turn. You've seen every side, heard every argument, and felt the weight of every emotional moment. Do you think this family can truly heal, or is this just another calm before the storm? Whose side are you on, or do you think everyone played a role in this explosive drama? If this story kept you hooked from start to finish, make sure you hit that like button, because it really helps support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another jaw-dropping story filled with secrets, betrayal, and family drama. And most importantly, drop a comment below and let your voice be heard. Your opinion matters, and we want to know exactly what you think happened behind closed doors. Stay tuned, because this story might not be over yet.